First time I've ever been at an alarm gig. I was at the back going like this. I've always wanted to do that.
How did you feel watching that back? Do you tend to watch yourself play live? Have you watched?
I've never seen me play it. I've never been at a gig, my own gig before, but I usually don't like listening to myself or watching myself, especially it's fine when you're making a record. It's kind of your own, and then as soon as you let it go, it becomes everyone else's, and then you have to move on. But I got more involved in the actual audio side of the mix than the film so much. And but Paul Green, who shot the film and directed the edit, is here tonight to see it, and it's brilliant. It's done an amazing job. And so. Seeing it sort of brought it all back to me. I was half thinking I'll stay at the back, and then when I come on the screen I'll disappear and come back at the end. But I found myself engrossed in the whole thing, and being with all the audience that were at the gig and everything, and I was doing the hands in the air and I was clapping. It was great.
I don't think I've been watching a film, a live show, when the whole audience is joining in as well. It was fantastic. That's really good. Just you know, I mean, the gig was emotional for many, many reasons. I mean, does it bring all that back to you? Because I mean, we know that, you know, for those who were there, would have seen the man in a camo jacket beforehand, which was incredibly moving, knowing that you'd announced a week before that you were battling cancer for a third time. I mean, how did it feel coming up to that gig with all these conflicting emotions?
Well, it was. I'd always seen the gig as a mountain to climb, right from the beginning when it was first mooted, which was before I'd gone. I'd relapsed or found out that I'd relapsed, and it was a mountain to climb musically. But then when I relapsed in the summer, and I was supposed to have treatment, I actually asked my doctors if I could postpone the treatment till after this gig. And so to me it represented a real spiritual pinnacle in my life to get to there and then start a new life on the Monday. So and the story wasn't intended to come out really till after the fact, but I was glad when you broke the story, because when you came up to my house to do the interview, you said, I think the fans will prefer to know in advance rather than find out during the film and have the shock. So I think the whole thing represented this summit in life, not just for me, but for the band's music, and John Quirk, who did the arrangements, you know, to work with someone like that, and the orchestra led by Lucy Morgan, and the choirs here, the Morriston Orpheus, that have been a big part of my life going back to the 80s. I've sung them in every decade, so it all came together at one point, and to see the audience that have grown with me and the music and all the trials and tribulations we faced together was moving, and then to see the final shot, actually, when I walked off stage and I was walking at the back of the stage with my boys, I saw Mike's shadow, as he was known, Dave Spragg, who was saw me through every gig. And you know, it was a mountain for him to climb to get that. He's on the other side of the mountain now, and we've lost him this week. And so I want to dedicate the film performance and that particular gig to his memory, because that's what the gig. The relationship I had with Dave, he was started out life as a fan in the front row of all the gigs, and he gravitated to working for the band, and then being in a dressing room with me, and at this year's gathering he sat in the dressing room with me for the whole weekend. He wasn't well enough to do many things, but he sat there with me, and that relationship symbolises our relationship, what the band and the fans have done for each other. There's been times when I've hit the floor and people like yourselves have posted something or written something, an email to me or sent me a letter, and that's lifted me up and carried me through to make the next song that I hope to record, and to have an audience that wants to listen to what I've got to say is very humbling, and it all came out in this show.
What's your abiding memory of that gig?
Two things. One was, and you can was saying goodnight at the end of Spirit of 76 when it wasn't really the last song in the set. And so we took that out of the gig. And because John Quick was going, "We've still got to play Blaze of Glory," in my ear. And then just before The Deceivers started, and we actually took that out of the film because we weren't sure how it would translate into America or Australia, where people are going to be seeing this when it comes out eventually. It was a bit like Straight Outta Stella, to be honest. The whole gig had gone quiet, and then this proper voice came. "We've cocking done it, but!" And we've qualified for the Euros with Wales, so everyone took the roof off. So it represented a mountain that we climbed as a country that day as well. So I think it was it was a great night to be Welsh, and that's why I said I think we were all Welsh on that night.
It was astonishing. It was astonishing. So, in terms of what you wanted from that gig, was it the culmination of a whole lot of checklists then? Did you want Morriston Orpheus, a choir, you know, Lucy and a fantastic Welsh Pops orchestra? You know, was that how you set out? Because obviously you played the Horizon Sing concert, which was amazing. And was that all propelled forward then?
Yeah, to be honest, when we talked about the original concert, we talked about inviting all kinds of musicians from my history, you know, from Glenn Matlock or Captain Sensible to come and play Spirit of 76. You see some of these people talking in the Man in the Camo Jacket film. There was Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins, who's a big Alarm fan, or Billy Duffy from the Cult, and even the original members of the Alarm I actually invited to come and maybe come on for one song or take part in somehow. And that was one of the hopes, but it soon became clear that there was so many life agendas going on for people, and bringing everyone to Cardiff was almost impossible. So I thought, rather than not have them all, let's not have any. So and then we just decided to trust in the music and the actual gig and the relationship we have and what was going on. And I'm so glad we did that, because I think it would have been a different gig if there'd been a guest coming on every song. And I got to thank Dave Driscoll, who's here at the back. Dave is another, you know, epitomises all that we've stood for in the Alarm community. Dave was in Mountain Ash when we came through on the Change photo session before the album came out, and we had a photograph outside his mum's house. He was at work, yeah. and Dave was at Brixton Academy. He was at all the gigs we played. He travelled the length and breadth of the country, and then here he is helping us he put Arise and Sing together. He promotes all our shows in Wales and beyond, and a big part of our family. And again, it's you know, we've created our own. The song says in 68 Guns, if they take our chances, we'll create our own. And in the Alarm, we've created our own career, if you like, our own history. And it's been written not just by myself and the band, but it's been created literally by fans themselves. And I think that's quite unique in this music industry, that we're all somehow connected to.
Sure. We'll open it open to the audience. So if you've got any questions, have a think. I'm just going to ask you one quick question. How much of a nervous breakdown did the cleaners have the next morning with the cards and poppies?
Yeah, I think I said it at the show. Everywhere that we go, especially the Gathering, that's the morning that you don't want to be a cleaner in Llandudno, the morning after the Gathering. Although now my two boys who are 9 and 11, Dylan and 11, they come with their posse of kids to the Gathering, and their favourite thing is at the end of the night collecting all the playing cards, and they come back to me with stacks of playing cards.
Tremendous.
But yeah, we get into a lot of trouble for the playing card, but luckily we never put it on the rider. We don't ask for playing cards on the rider, so we don't tip off any of the venues.
Good point. So it's your opportunity to ask Mike any questions you might have.
There's a hand for a lady there.
Right in the middle.
Were you singing along during the film?
I was, of course I was. Yeah, couldn't you hear me? I even forgot the words at the back. The gentleman there.
About a third of the way through the concert, seemed to have come a magic point where you
audience kind of clicked in. Now, the question I always wanted to ask somebody like you is, when you're standing on that stage, what's it feel like when an audience suddenly becomes like a third choir? Because you're on fabulous voice that night, because I was sat up in the wings listening. It was astonishing.
Well, to be honest, I've always felt that whenever, well, I've never ever played a gig in silence, except maybe one night in Brecon. But even that was punctuated with noise, I have to say. It was a great night, and for some reason, ever since I wrote Unsafe Building and played that at the first gig we ever had, people started singing along, and from that point in 1981, whenever a show was played, or if it was the whole band, or if it was for the first time on my own, I remember coming to BBC Radio Wales and playing the Orange Box, and it was just Eddie McDonald Night. It was the first time we'd ever played sort of an acoustic alarm gig, and if you hear the bootleg of that broadcast, the whole audience is singing they're drowning us out, and we had somehow that seemed to follow us everywhere we went, even when we went to Japan, where audience would sit down and an alarm gig in Japan, they're all standing up and they're all clapping along and singing, and I ask myself why often, but I sometimes don't really want to know the answer because I just let it happen as an instinct, and so whenever there's been a gig, our audience have sung along. They're fantastic singers, because we're a Welsh band and we often have Welsh choirs at our audience, no matter whether we ask for them or not. Yeah. And I think in 2014, when I came to re-look at the Declaration album and rephrase it for modern times, I thought, well, if I'm going to record it, let's put the sound of the audience singing along. So I brought in a North Wales choir to sing, and just at certain points they elevate it and bring that sound. And I think it's funny, if I was talking about this when the DVD and the soundtrack comes out in a few weeks' time, I wrote an 11,000 word essay about the concert, and it's called The Alarm, an Orchestral History, and it goes right back to the beginnings of standing on stage with Bob Dylan and hearing him rewrite words of his famous songs, but then goes back to when we recorded 68 Guns in 1983, and the sound of that record is orchestral. There's an orchestra. There was trumpets, horns, keyboards. There was all kinds of instrumentation that we didn't want on our record. And when we heard it, we were kind of aghast. But that was the record that people fell in love with the band, with The Alarm. And I think it almost took us till this concert to sort of bring that whole journey full circle, and because a lot of people fell in love as an orchestrated band, because that's what 68 Guns sounds like, and we were able to recreate it in that style at this concert.
For you as a musician, there can't be anything more pleasing, more exciting, to be able to reinterpret your songs in a different way, I guess. I mean, it's the moment when it's Blaze of Glory, the final bit, all the house lights are up, and you're checking out the tiers on either side. What are you thinking inside at that moment?
It's quite humbling in those moments, because when the house lights come on, just like they are now, I see people who've walked that with me throughout my whole musical life. People who've, like Hubert here, who's been with me from the beginning, and was doing the sound at the Millennium Centre, and through having people who stand with you at every night at a concert, and they go through it all, because sometimes you're at the sound check, you're not quite feeling great, you've maybe played too many gigs and you feel a bit dry, and then you go on stage and then the lights go down and bang, it all happens, and then when you see what comes back to you from the audience, it's very humbling, and when the lights are down and they're shining, it's often a sea of black. When the lights come out and you see everybody there, you can't. Sometimes at a gig you make one-on-one contact with somebody who's been through a lot with you, and you have to fight back the tears, and that was happening all the way through that concert, particularly when the Morristons came on for New South Wales. I had to really compose myself to sing that song, and we've been on an incredible life journey, all of us, and all bound up in this music. So I'm a very grateful man.
Any other questions? Right at the very back.
Just a quick one. My first concert I saw was in Tregaron back in the mid-80s. And seen loads of places ever since. The Point, Cardiff. I went up to Liverpool to see you in Cavan back last year. Obviously, plenty of Cavan and something like that. Have you got a favourite venue? Not a favourite concert necessarily, but a favourite venue for you guys?
Well, I'd have to say now it's the Wales Millennium Centre. But there's lots of great nights, and it does change, you know, because life moves on, the music changes, and you know, when we first started, it was we used to love playing in Scotland because they really embraced us. We didn't like playing in Liverpool because we only came from about 15 miles away, and they had this thing about people from North Wales. You know what I mean? And then I couldn't remember the first time we played in South Wales, really, where we made a big connection. It was just after 68 Guns had become a hit. I think it was in early 1984, and we came to play at the New Ocean Club, wherever that was in Cardiff.
Rover Way, East Cardiff.
East Cardiff, yeah.
Like near the Steel.
It seemed like a sort of working man's club of some sort,
yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely stuffed to the roof. And I, at that point in my life, I didn't necessarily think that me coming from Wales was any different from me coming from London or New York. You know, we didn't have a hometown gig in Rhyl. It wasn't, you know, we were... You know, I remember when 68 Guns was a hit in the local paper, the Rhyl Journal, the journalist wrote, "Well, the Alarm have finally had a hit, brackets, if you can call getting on commercial TV success." And it was like, well, we won't be playing in Rhyl tomorrow night then, lads, will we? So when we came to Cardiff, it was like a revelation that the gig was sold out, and it was sold out more than London, you know, and then just as we were about to run up the stairs to go on stage, my best mate and best man at Jules and I's wedding, Red Eye, who works for Bob Dylan, he said to me, "Mike, when you get up on stage, just say, 'It's great to be back home.'" And I ran on stage, and there at the New Ocean Club in Cardiff went, "It's great to be back home." And everyone, "Oh!" and went absolutely crazy. And I think at that moment I felt more Welsh than I'd ever felt my whole life.
And you haven't stopped saying that
I haven't
since.
stopped, no. And I never will.
Gent there.
Has there ever been a turning point in your career? Do you think there was a point when you thought, that's it, that's the point where I turned the corner, that's it, we're going to make it?
Yeah, there's lots of those, to be quite honest, I think. When you look back through the Man in the Camo Jacket film, you see the turning points. You know, I suppose the major turning point for me was the night John Lennon passed away, and that led to me to write Unsafe Building, and as soon as I'd written that song, I knew life wasn't going to be the same again. And then there've been, you know, so many recording 68 Guns, ironically, that as we hated the record, but it became a massive turning point for us because it became a super huge hit in Britain. Playing with U2, you know, December 1981, we got to play with U2, and we nearly turned it down because we had this policy of not supporting bands, and we ended up. We only had it for 5 minutes, but it was a policy written in stone, and the agent, we'd met the agent Ian Wilson, who became a manager, and he said, you know, we said to him, "Look, we're never going to support a band. You can book as many gigs as you want, but never ever book us as a support band." And he goes, "Okay, I get it, lads." You know, we almost pinned him to the floor. No support gigs. And then we go home to our flat in Emu Road, London, getting ready to come home to Wales for Christmas. And the phone goes. We've only seen him 20 minutes earlier. He says, "Mike, there's a great opportunity. Just come up for tonight. Do you want to play with U2?" And we're like, "Well, I just said to you we don't support bands." He goes, "Yeah, but Mike, I couldn't just not have this one go by without asking the question." I said, "Look, let me talk to the boys." And I turned to Dave Sharp, and he went, No. And Eddie McDonald's like, "Well," and Twist, the drummer, gets, "Ian, of course we're going to play with U2 tonight." So we did, and we started a great relationship with Bono, and he came on stage and he was looking at the harmonicas and the guitars, and back to the hotel, and then who know, we were playing at somewhere like Cambridge Scout Hut when the phone call went, "Do you want to go and play with U2 in America?" And I thought, this is a big turning point. Say yes. So we did. But as this gig, the Millennium Centre was a massive turning point.
We told sadly got a go on, there's a gent with a hand up. I got to wind up the paddle.
Forward in another band, and then you've got your own tour. So you're busy for the next couple of months. How's your health?
How's my health? Well, very good, thank you
That's
very
my
much
last
indeed. Yeah, I'm on I had my chemotherapy tonight. Believe it or not, before the doors open, I have to have a twice daily dose of chemotherapy, and then once a month I go into hospital for immunotherapy. But my blood results as of this last week are the best they've ever been, and God bless the NHS. That's all I could say.
I was going to ask you finally, how do you top that?
We'll have to wait and see. You just keep hoping and dreaming that great things are still going to come. That I think this will lead to other things, other doors opening already. That I've got some really great news about an event that's going to take part in the summer. I'm not allowed to say about yet, but hopefully we'll be able to
Get
soon.
you in a bar and give you a couple of drinks. Go on, off the record. Nobody will say anything. Off the record.
Nobody, you can't. You promise me you can't say that, because I'll get thrown off if I say.
Hang on a minute.
But the Gathering begins with a G, and that's a rock and roll festival, yeah. Well, there's an older festival in Britain that begins with G.
Fantastic.
I'll see you there.
Brilliant.
So it's going to be announced as soon as I'm allowed to.
Fantastic. Well, on that inspiring, positive note, thank you ever so much.
Thanks, Dave. David Owens, what a great guy. Thanks, Dave.
Brilliant.